I'm an academic, so my license to be diplomatic, and I do apologize in advance. And I'm ready to provide a bit of cold shower and lower the expectations as well. So a bit of reality check where we are. And I would really, as someone who is a citizen of 2 EU member states, provide a bit of a background. Because there is a massive irony about the EU. The shortest acronym we can have, the EU, ES, versus the complex reality of what are we dealing with. And until and unless we understand, our expectations may be a bit exaggerated, and then it leads mutual misunderstanding. A library could be filled with books trying to understand what the EU is. It's not a state. It's not more than an international organization. And I would say compare the EU to a train. A train of 28 carriages, wagony, with about 10 other states affiliated or attached to the train. And there is no single decision-making authority and no single decision-making process. So academics refer to something which is the expectation capability gap. It's basically massive expectations and never quite delivered. But the key word, if there is one key word that any official from the EU member states know, is the word of competences. Competences is everything, because as we've heard about norms and values, the EU is about, basically it's a legal union bound by legal norms, which is great. Because when it comes to trade and economic issues, we have really some kind of authority. And it means that rules are very, very clear. And if you look at HACCP, basically hygiene regime for any food business in the EU, the rules are very clear, transparent. Then you compare it with the Minsk agreement, and this is where we have a different story. Why? Because the EU has been called in academia and in politics basically a trade superpower and a foreign policy dwarf. So think about the train which comes to basically goes and then stopped at a station and has a summit and defines what its foreign policy is going to be. And no wonder, this is not the way to do foreign policy. So what we have is a delegation to a smaller format. Like, for example, with the Minsk process, we have delegation to Germany and France, which is great, but the EU and its member states are outside its comfort zone. They have been for a long time, but in a way, the so-called Ukrainian crisis exemplifies it only too well. Because the EU, the fundamental challenge for the EU, it has been devised as a post-geopolitical entity. Basically, to eliminate geopolitics from the European continent. This is great. The problem is that the world doesn't work like that. And in a way, the EU is not quite institutionally ready, hence this delegation to individual member states. When it comes to the short Georgian-Russian war, it was France. When it comes to the Ukraine, the war in the east, it's Germany and France. And the EU is a pacifist power. And as someone in Brussels said, when it comes to dealing with Ukraine and the war, it's almost the position is peace at any price, and as soon as possible. Peace at any price, especially if Ukraine pays the price. Because the EU agenda is full, and I'm afraid I exemplify what's wrong in the EU. As a Polish citizen, and as the British citizen, 2 countries which have their own problems, but I'm also a migrant. So this is the EU's agenda is full. Come at the station, and being in the room with 28 ministers and head of states who have to deal with all the problems inside and outside the EU. So I know many people in Ukraine feel that Ukraine hasn't received enough attention. As an EU watcher, I'm actually amazed how much attention Ukraine is achieving. So the expectation capability gap in Ukraine is perhaps smaller than I expected. And I know it's also in Ukraine, the EU has been saying reforms, change, structure, restructuring, and etc. And it can be very tiring, irritating, and annoying. We're only humans, after all. And I perhaps will use a metaphor from my husband. My husband used to teach psychology. And especially Indian students complain to him. Their parents expect so much. They have to work harder. They're never satisfied. They ask for more. And my husband used to say, there is only one worse thing than parents who do care. Those are parents who do not care. And in a way, outside that metaphor of the parent, when it comes to external power, in a way, when the EU stops commenting, when it stops caring, then Ukraine has a problem. And in a way, that problem is exemplified in today's Moldova. Moldova, with all the respect to Moldovans, was just too small and too insignificant, and it was artificially elevated to a success story when things in the country were going very badly. And this is, in a way, an example when the EU did not care enough to pay and make a difference inside the country. So from that point of view, Ukraine is on the horizon, is on the agenda, however big the agenda of the EU is. And the EU officials, they are only humans. They have 2 years in their post. They don't want problems. They want solutions. And with Ukraine, there are no quick solutions. And I'm especially so there's no perceived contradiction, for example, between implementing the Minsk as proposed by Russia versus promoting long-term integration of Ukraine with the EU. And I'm full of respect to Ukrainian diplomacy in general, and to Mr. Klimkin in particular, for making sure that in the EU there is understanding that you cannot have peace at the expense of long-term, stability and viability of Ukraine as such. So this is, in a way, I've said enough sort of doom and gloom things about the EU, and I don't expect that things will get any easier anytime, not least because where we are with the UK, for example. I don't want to sound apocalyptic, but the Brexit is a big thing for the EU, and the consequences, I would like to minimize them, but for the security implications on the European continent, at least, they are going to be massive. Having said that, I hope that business as usual in this EU style will continue, but perhaps what may be unexpected for Ukraine, that British officials may be very soon starting the association agreement and learning and thinking how to structure the relations with the EU. So Ukraine may be already becoming an unexpected sort of role model. So this is my those are my sobering remarks and on the EU, and in a way to adjust our expectations to make sure that we understand that we are dealing with a an entity with a very short name and yet so very elusive and complex. And I will stop here. Thank you.